All right, tell again. All right, y'all. We about to get it. We about to get it cracking. I guess get it back cracking, right? Because all right, tell again. All right, tell again. I gotta get this. Oh, okay. Okay. You think they probably wouldn't go longer than tomorrow if they don't come back today with the verdict? Longer than expected. I mean, how long have they been on? Okay, jury clock 2 hours and 3 minutes. Mm, mm, mm. Where's the jury clock at? But I'll tell you what's sending me. I'm trying to rewind it up. And it really to me feel like they cut the feed. Like, where's everything from today? They did something to the Law and Crime did something to the feed to where we can't go back and watch and rewatch the jury instructions. Like, I'm upset. I'm not happy about that. All right. I need somebody to be on the lookout for be on the lookout. Okay, I don't think we could go back and hear the jury instructions. I'm upset about that. I always get upset about something, don't I? Something always ruffling my little feathers. Okay, well, I don't think we're gonna get to go back and listen to jury instructions because, yeah, yeah, I don't think we're gonna be able to get it. So, are y'all ready to get into the wedding anniversary murder? Because we could just go and jump on. Hey, Jasmine. They had to do something because the feed is gone, girl. Like, it's not there. And I did go to the live. I did go to the live and try to click on it, but it ain't there either. So it's the same feed. It's not showing. So I guess we're gonna jump into the wedding anniversary murder. This man is accused of killing his wife.
Those things away somewhere at a gas station. You'll see the numerous text messages that Mr. Filazzo sends to Emily over Emily's phone over the weekend. The same phone that he turned off and put in a bag and threw away. From Saturday at 1 o'clock until Monday at 10:30 in the morning, he sends 16 text messages to her phone, asking where she is, asking her to come back, getting angry with her for not answering his calls or his text, and eventually telling her that he doesn't deserve this shit. You'll hear testimony from the medical examiner about how Emily's body was dismembered after she was killed with a serrated tool like a handsaw. You'll also hear that Emily's body was stabbed 18 times after she was killed. 1 stab to her chest, hitting her heart, 8 stabs to her abdomen, 9 stabs to her back. The medical examiner will tell you that these were stab wounds, not slicing wounds. And you'll hear Mr. Ferlazzo admit to cutting up Emily's body with a saw, putting it in garbage bags, and how he intended to bring her body into the woods and discard it. You'll hear how he greets his sister on Saturday morning after killing Emily with a text and says, "I just made some coffee. I can bring you some." He takes a shower at her Airbnb. They go to breakfast. When his sister asks where Emily is, he says she's sleeping. They have breakfast, he eats, he drinks a mimosa. They make plans to go to St. Albans, where another friend of his lives. He gives his sister a tattoo. They go out to dinner that night in St. Albans. On Sunday, he meets his sister for brunch here in Burlington. They hang out. He goes back to his friend's house in St. Albans, hangs out at a bonfire. You will hear testimony from an individual who was at that bonfire, an off-duty police officer, who will say that Mr. Ferlazzo was acting like a normal person and taking hits off a marijuana bomb at the bonfire. During that bonfire, he doesn't say anything to any of his friends or this off-duty police officer about what happened, or that he felt he had no other option but to kill Emily, or that he made a horrible mistake. The evidence will show that he began executing his plan to get rid of Emily's body. He cuts her up using a saw. He puts her body in trash bags. The evidence will show that in order to bring those trash bags into the woods to discard them, he needed to go to New Hampshire and get his Jeep. He drove his motorcycle that was stored at his friend's house in St. Albans 3 hours to his in-laws' house in New Hampshire where his Jeep was. When they ask him, "Where's Emily?" he says, "We got into a fight and she left on Saturday." Doesn't know where she is. His in-laws then report Emily missing. When the police call to speak to Mr. Ferlazzo about his missing wife, Mr. Ferlazzo tells the trooper the made-up story about how Emily went missing on Saturday, somewhere in Bolton. And the police ask him where his van is. Mr. Ferlazzo lies to the police and tells them that the van's not running well and that it is at an auto shop. He tells them that that auto shop is in Virgins. The evidence will show that this is when Mr. Ferlazzo's cover-up starts unraveling. The evidence will show that before Mr. Ferlazzo left his in-laws' home in St. Albans, they convinced him to turn on location sharing services on his phone. He started driving from New Hampshire back to Vermont around 8:15 on Monday night. On the way, he texts a friend who lives in Enosburg and says that he's going to be showing up at his house on Monday night at 11:20. While Mr. Ferlazzo is driving from New Hampshire to Vermont, police learn that the van is not in Virgins, and they locate the van in St. Albans. And they post a couple of troopers outside of the van. Mr. Ferlazzo eventually arrives at his friend's house in Enosburg. They hop in his friend's car because Mr. Ferlazzo has said, "I need a ride to go get my van." As they're driving and getting close to where the van is parked at his friend's house in St. Albans, they start to see troopers. Mr. Ferlazzo tells his friend to turn around. His friend confronts him about what's going on, asking him if those troopers are for him. Mr. Ferlazzo tells his friend the police are looking for Emily, that she's in the van, that she's not alive, and that he shot her. When his friend attempts to kick him out of his car, Mr. Ferlazzo starts panicking, acting like he's going to jump out of the car, asks his friend to shoot him, and says he can't go to prison. His friend calls 911 as Mr. Ferlazzo walks off into the woods. hear about how after that 911 call, the police start looking for Mr. Ferlazzo. And you'll hear that about 14 hours later, a detective from the Vermont State Police was at the Maple Fields in St. Albans. You'll hear about her seeing Mr. Ferlazzo getting a drink out of the cooler at the Maple Fields. And you'll hear about Mr. Ferlazzo being approached by the troopers. And that trooper will describe that Mr. Ferlazzo appeared deflated and looked like he had given up. She brought him back to the station and he sat down with detectives for an interview. 42 seconds into the interview, he confesses to shooting Emily. You will hear that confession and you will see how detailed, thoughtful, and thorough his conversation is. He has time to think about what he's going to say. He's giving numerous breaks. He has time to contemplate. He has time to change his story or correct inaccuracies. At no point during his statement will you ever hear him say that he thought Emily was going to kill him, hurt him, or that she posed any threat to him. In fact, at numerous points during his statement, you will hear him talk about how angry he was with her, and how he wanted to stop her, and how he made a decision. As you're taking in all of the evidence over the next couple of days, I want you to pay close attention to what you hear and also what you don't hear. You won't hear or see any evidence that indicates this was a lawful or justified killing. You won't see any evidence that indicates that Emily posed a threat to him. You won't see any evidence that indicates that Mr. Ferlazzo couldn't make decisions, couldn't think straight, couldn't form intent to kill. In fact, you'll hear the opposite. After all the evidence is presented, Judge Pack will read you the law. He'll read instructions on the essential elements of the offense and provide definitions of those legal terms. You will be asked to decide whether the state has met its burden of proving these essential elements beyond a reasonable doubt, and we are confident that we can and will meet that burden. The state will meet its burden and show beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Ferlazzo was the person who committed this offense, that Mr. Ferlazzo caused the death of his wife, Emily Ferlazzo, that Mr. Ferlazzo's killing of Emily was unlawful, meaning there was no legal justification for it, that he intended to kill Emily, meaning it wasn't a mistake, it wasn't an accident, that he acted willfully, that he acted deliberately, and that he acted with premeditation. And we believe that this evidence will prove, well, beyond a reasonable doubt to every single one of you serving on this jury, that Mr. Ferlazzo is guilty of the unlawful, intentional, willful, deliberate, and premeditated killing of Emily. And we will be asking you to return a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
Ms. Jens, do you wish to make an opening?
Yes, Judge, I do. Thank you. That's it. You're dead. That's it. You're dead. That's what Joseph Ferlazzo now remembers hearing Emily say to him, and then seeing her start to pull her pistol out from under her pillow, because these are people who slept with guns under their pillows. He was afraid for his life, believed she was going to shoot and kill him. That's it. You're dead, she said to him. And he shot her twice in the head. This weekend, prior to this weekend, they have been living with her parents in New Hampshire for about a month.
You can't,
You can't hear me.
yeah.
I apologize.
If you want to put the,
I'll just move this up. Yeah. They've been refitting a camper to turn it into a residence. They actually had a name for it, Roaming Rosie. You'll hear him testify. And it was something they planned to go cross country up and down the East Coast. This weekend was a trip to Vermont to celebrate their 1-year anniversary and to spend time with his sister Nikki, who he hadn't seen in years. His sister rented an Airbnb in Bolton, and they parked their camper in the parking lot of the Airbnb in Bolton. The drive up here from New Hampshire was great. They were both in a good mood. Mr. Ferlazzo, Joseph, was looking forward to spending time with his sister, and Emily seemed to be in a good mood. He will tell you, the minute they parked, it was like a switch flipped, and she started complaining. F this, F you, F your family. I don't want to be here. I'm going to destroy your life. And that just went on and on and on. That was late in the afternoon, I believe, on Friday the 16th. Mr. Ferlazzo did contact his sister. They made arrangements to meet. He did meet with his sister and her boyfriend. Emily was quiet. And when they got back to the camper from seeing his sister, she started again. He put on some he lit some candles because there was, he wanted to have candlelight. She didn't like it. Put those candles out. He did. She grabbed the big Yankee candle and started hitting him with it. Head, neck, shoulders, torso. He took the candle from her, but that didn't stop her. She continued kicking him, punching him all over his body. He will tell you he grabbed her arms and say, hey, you stay in your space, I'll stay in mine. This is not acceptable. And he took his dog Remy out for a walk. He came back, she was lying down in bed. And you will see pictures of their camper. It's really small. The way the bed is arranged is that it's flush against the back of the camper. His side of the bed was against the back of the camper. Her side was closer to the inside of the camper. In order to get into his side of the bed, he had to climb across her. So he comes back in and she's still grumbling and mumbling and I don't want to do this, F you all over the place. And he starts climbing across her to get into bed. As he does, so she's lying on her stomach, face to the left, right arm under her pillow. She takes her elbow and smashes it into his groin. She does say something like, what the fuck? Smashes her elbow into his groin, picks up the pillow and throws it on her head. That's when she says, that's it, you're dead. Starts to raise up, starts to pull out the gun. He, of course, has his gun in his hand. That's what these two people did. They believed they needed to sleep with their guns for self-protection. He already had his Glock in his hand. He saw her hand start to move out from under the pillow, and he shot her twice and killed her. That's not in dispute. What happened is not in dispute. It's why it happened. After he shot her, he really was in a state of panic and shock. He will tell you he loved his wife. This is hardly something that on the weekend they were celebrating their anniversary, he planned or intended or wanted. He did not want this. You will hear how he sat by her bedside, just in panic and not knowing what to do. He did go to, just as the state told you, he went to meet his sister for breakfast. He carried on for the rest of the weekend as normally as he could. And he did a pretty good job of it in that he lied repeatedly, and he will admit that. He lied to everyone he came in contact with about what happened to Emily. His explanations are varied. He says, I was sleep deprived, I was intoxicated, I was in shock. He will tell you that even now, his memory of what happened is fragmented, coming to him in bits and pieces. It is true that he told the police nothing about what I've just described to you, and that it was weeks later that it began coming back to him in the form of nightmares, that he could see her pulling the gun out to shoot him. You, as finders of fact, will have to decide what you think is true and what isn't true. But there's not much that's in dispute about what happened. He will explain to you the reasons for the stab wounds and the dismemberment. But the truth is that he himself he's trying to put all the pieces together. And what he knows for sure is that he shot her in self-defense because he believed at the time that she was going to kill him. And it will be up to you. Let me just make sure I didn't forget anything before I ask you to find not guilty. Yeah. Yep. It'll be up to you to decide what you believe is true and what isn't true. Is he just making up a story now to get away with it? Or is there more to the story than what the state would have you believe? We think once you've heard all the evidence, including hearing from Mr. Ferlazzo about what happened, that you will believe Joseph and acquit him of the charge of first-degree murder. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. James. Is the state ready with its first witness?
We are, Judge. We just need to get her.
Yep. So I think we were going to take a 5-minute break here. We don't usually take breaks this quickly, but since the first witnesses, do we need?
No, I think the court needed to, I think we should take a break, Judge.
Okay, then we will take a 5-minute break.
You solemnly affirm that the evidence you shall give throughout the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and everything that you heard.
Here's George.
Thank you, Judge. Hello, Ms. Bass. Can you hear me okay? Try to
Yeah,
keep your voice up as much as possible. Speak directly into it.
Okay.
Okay, so that everybody in the back can hear you, okay? So the jury can hear you. You start by just telling us what your name is
My name is Adrianne Bass,
and how do you spell your last name?
B-A-S-S.
And do you know David Bass?
Yes,
Okay, who is David Bass?
he's my husband.
And how long have you been married?
5 years.
Where did you reside in October of 2021?
In 185 Bay Hill Road, Northfield, New Hampshire.
And you resided there with David?
Yes,
Did you reside there with anyone else?
yes.
Who else did you reside there with?
My son Matthew and my daughter Emily, as well as Mr. Ferlazzo.
When was your daughter Emily born?
July 25th, 1999.
Okay. And when did Emily marry Joseph Ferlazzo?
October 10th, 2020.
2020. How long had they been dating when they got married?
Only a few months.
At the time that they got married, had you met Mr. Ferlazzo?
Yes.
How many times?
I only remember one time, but it may have been another time.
So did you know him well when they got married?
No.
When did they move in with you in Northfield, New Hampshire?
So Emily had moved back in April of 2021. She made that her legal address again, and then he moved in September 13th, 2021.
So Emily moved back in April. Where was Mr. Ferlazzo residing when she moved back?
I'm not entirely sure if he was still in their Essex Junction apartment or if he was on the Lang's property.
Do you know the Langs?
No.
Okay. Do you know where they live?
Yes.
Where do they live?
Judge, can I interrupt for just a second and approach, please?
Hmm.
Sure. Can you also spell your first name for us?
Yes. Adrienne. That's a lot louder.
Yes. Thank you. I'm going to draw your attention to October 15th of 2021.
Okay.
Did you see Emily and Joseph on that day?
Yes.
And what do you recall about your interactions with them that day?
They were preparing to go on a trip to Bolton Valley, Vermont. And
Let me ask you, was?
yes,
What
Okay. I think her breathing is picking up louder than the words she's saying. It's not easy.
Okay.
But we'll keep going.
Nose.
No, I think because it's a little louder now, you can, you're quite so close.
Okay.
Okay. They're planning on going to a trip to Vermont.
Yes.
And what was the purpose of that trip?
The purpose was twofold. One was Emily was excited to meet her sister-in-law, Nikki. She hadn't met her yet. And the other was to celebrate their 1-year wedding anniversary.
Do you know how long they plan to stay in Vermont?
Until Monday.
And did they intend on coming back to New Hampshire on Monday?
Yes.
Did you see them leave?
No.
Okay. Did Emily seem excited to leave? Go on the trip?
She was excited to see her sister-in-law, but it seemed to be taking longer to get the bus ready. So she seemed, I don't know how to describe it. She wasn't upset, but sort of just, what's going on, when we're going. So,
Anxious to go?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you speak to Emily once they had left?
through Messenger.
Okay. Do you recall when the last time was that you heard from her?
It was about around 7:45 that night.
Okay. And that was through Messenger?
Yes.
Messenger. Did you speak to Joseph once they had left?
No.
So you didn't speak to Emily or hear from Emily after 7:45 or 8 on Friday night?
Correct.
And did you hear from Emily at all on Saturday, the 16th?
No.
Did you hear from Joseph at all on Saturday, the 16th?
No.
Did you speak with Emily at all on Sunday, October 17th?
No.
Did you hear from Mr. Palazzo at all on Sunday, the 17th?
No.
Did you speak to Emily on Monday, the 18th?
No.
Did you hear from Mr. Palazzo on Monday, the 18th?
Yes.
Did he call you from Vermont?
No.
How did you happen to hear from him on Monday
He walked into our house
in New Hampshire?
in New Hampshire.
Do you recall when?
It was around 6 p.m.
And was Emily with him?
No.
Did you ask him where Emily was?
Yes.
What explanation did he give you about why Emily wasn't with him?
That they had an argument, and she got out of the bus on Route 2. He drove away to a gas station to let her cool off, and then he came back. She was gone. He had then said that she had mentioned something about getting an Uber, so he thought that's what she did.
Did he tell you when this happened?
Saturday afternoon.
Did he tell you where the van, or I should ask first, was he in the van when he came to your house?
No.
What was he on?
He was on the Ducati Monster motorcycle.
And this was in mid-October, correct?
Yes.
Did he tell you why he wasn't in the van?
No.
Did he tell you where the van was?
I asked him 2 different times, and he told me 2 different answers. One was in New Haven, and the other is at a garage of somebody, I believe, named Kurt.
Someone named Kurt? Okay. Were either of those locations that he gave you his friend's house in St. Albans?
No.
Okay. What did you observe about him when he arrived?
He was shaking. I interpreted that as he was cold because he had just driven from Vermont on his motorcycle.
Based on those observations, what did you say to him?
I suggested he take a shower, and then we would talk more about Emily.
And before he took a shower, did he give you anything?
He gave me Emily's driver's license.
How did that happen?
He had put his hand in his pocket and pulled it out and seemed surprised that it was there and handed it to me. And I believe I asked him why he had it. And he said that they had gone to buy alcohol and Emily gave it to him just in case they needed to see it.
I'm going to show you
That is my daughter Emily's most recent driver's license.
Is this the driver's license that Mr. Filazzo gave you?
Yes.
I have no objection, but I am having a little trouble hearing.
Okay. States 2 is admitted without objection. Bring it up. And just do your best to keep that voice up. And Ms. Jantz, if you have continued, let us know so
Thank you.
we make sure you can hear.
Jurors are also having. trouble.
Obviously, the jurors, you can raise a hand if you're unable to hear in the back as well, because we want to make sure everybody hears all of the testimony.
When Mr. Filazzo was at your house, had the police been contacted at all about Emily?
Objection. Unless she's going to testify that he told her one way or the other whether they had been contacted, I don't know how she would know. And it's a leading question.
We'll sustain it as asked. Sustain the objection.
Were you aware of whether the police had been called?
Same objection.
Foundationally, we'll sustain the objection.
Did Joseph tell you that he called the police?
He did not.
And did you call the police?
My husband, David Bass, called the police with me.
And what police agency did you call?
I believe we spoke to both the New Hampshire State Police and the Vermont State Police.
And did the Vermont State Police ultimately speak to Mr. Filazzo?
Yes,
And was he at your house when that occurred?
yes.
How long did Mr. Filazzo stay at your residence?
Until about 8 o'clock.
How long after speaking to the police did he leave your residence?
It wasn't very long.
What did he do while he was at your residence?
He took a shower. He ate the dinner that David had made for us. He spoke to the police. He changed his clothes. Spoke to us, answered the questions that we asked him.
Do you recall what dinner he ate?
It was some sort of pasta and sauce.
And when he ultimately left, after speaking to the police, did he say why he was leaving?
Yes.
Why did he say he was leaving?
He said that he had work to do in Vermont. He had tattoos to finish.
Before he left, did he agree to anything related to his phone?
I believe my husband, David Bass, was able to get him to share his location. They shared their locations with each other. My intention was to help make sure that the sentiment was to make sure he got to where he was going safely.
And that was in Vermont.
Yes.
Did he leave on the same motorcycle that he arrived on?
No.
What did he leave with?
The red Jeep Wrangler.
And that was his Jeep,
Yes,
and it was at your house?
it was.
And how long had that Jeep been at your residence?
Less than a month.
Do you know whether he owned any other motor vehicles? Any vehicles, not motorcycles?
He owned the converted bus.
And I think, forgive me if you already answered this, do you recall what time he left your residence on Monday?
It was around 8 p.m.
And did you ever see Mr. Filazzo again after that?
No,
And did you ever hear from him again after that?
No.
Did you ever see Emily with a firearm?
No.
Did you?
Judge, these are leading questions. Did you ever see her with a firearm? Is a yes or no leading question.
There are certain, I'll overrule. You.
Thank you.
To your knowledge, did she own one?
No.
Those are all the questions that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Ms. Jantz, do you have cross?
Thank you.
good morning.
And I understand and appreciate how difficult this is for you.
Thank you.
It's obvious to all of us how deeply troubling and emotional this is for you. So I'm going to try and do my best not to upset you any more than you already are. And are you picking? Am I being recorded?
I can't hear you clearly, so I'm guessing they can.
You can't hear me? Okay. I just was telling Ms. Bass that I appreciate how hard this is for her to appear today and talk about this. Prior to their, so I think you said you met Joseph once before she and Emily got married. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think you said that your impression was he was quiet. Is that right?
I don't remember if that's what I said.
You didn't dislike him, did you?
No, not at that point.
Did you liked him, didn't you?
I didn't know him at that point.
But you knew Emily liked him, right?
Yes.
And I think you said if she liked him, then you were willing to go along with that. Is that
Correct.
about right?
Yes.
So you had, prior to their marriage, you were not, you thought they were happy together. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Did there come a point when you thought that they were having trouble as a couple?
Yes.
When was that?
The New Year's Eve, 2021.
New Year's Eve, 2021.
Yes.
I'm talking about before Emily's death, which was October 2021.
So, sorry, October
2020.
yes, 2020.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying. Help me.
That's okay. What did you see or observe that led you to the conclusion that their marriage might be having some problems?
So it was a phone call from Emily near midnight stating that she had been in a fight with him and that he had pushed her and she was crying. And then later she went into a room to be by herself away from him. And
So she told you?
yes,
Okay.
and
In this same phone conversation?
yes.
Go ahead.
And then she recorded herself in that separate room with him on the other side talking to her.
Were they arguing?
She wasn't saying anything to him, but he seemed to be upset that she was in a separate room from him.
What did you hear that led you to that conclusion?
I don't remember exactly what was said.
And after that, were there periods of time when Emily was considering divorce?
Yes.
But as far as you know, that happened more than once that she talked about the divorce, right?
Yes.
But they always reconciled. Is that right as well?
Yes.
And you said that Ms. Joseph gave you Emily's driver's license in connection with the purchase of alcohol. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
You guys hear me? They drank alcohol together, didn't they?
I believe so.
Vodka and wine. Is that your recollection?
I'm aware of the vodka. I'm not sure about the wine or any other specific types of alcohol.
And this was when they were living in your house, correct?
Yes.
Do you know of any other times when they consumed alcohol? And if you do, how do you know?
Yes. That night, the New Year's Eve night, Emily told me that she'd had some vodka.
Vodka? Was it your impression when they were living in your house that they drank to excess?
I didn't see them drink a lot at all.
At all? Okay. So how do you know that they drank vodka while they were living in your house if you didn't see them drinking?
I didn't see them drinking excessively.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. Okay. So prior to the day that they left your house to come to Vermont, you testified on direct examination that Emily was upset that it was taking so long for the camper to be ready. Is that right?
Yes.
What did you see her say or do that led you to that conclusion?
She seemed, how to describe it? Not necessarily frustrated, but confused as to why it was taking so long for him to get the bus ready. She said she thought that it was ready, but he kept doing different things in the bus and wasn't ready to go.
Okay, Okay, so you just said she seemed confused and frustrated. How did she express that? For
She
example,
told me,
She
she
told-
said that she doesn't know why the bus isn't ready yet. I thought we were going to go at this time and he's still doing things.
was she easily frustrated in your experience?
No, depends on the mood.
On mood?
Yeah, what's going on? Is she tired?
I'm sorry.
If she's tired,
She would be more easily frustrated.
sure.
I think that's normal.
Yeah.
Other than the phone call you've described to us where of New Year's Eve, did you ever see Emily and Joseph arguing?
When he or Emily were driving me places, when she was driving, he would do things like grab the steering wheel on her, change the station, poke at her body.
So I'm going to use a word. He was like heckling her. Is that right? Something to that effect, or is that too benign a word to describe what his actions were? Heckling.
I can say when observing that
Yeah.
situation, I was very concerned about our safety.
Okay. How did Emily react?
She was telling him to stop.
Okay. Was he laughing, or did he, for example, do you think it was a joke?
I don't remember hearing him laughing.
Okay. Did you ever observe any marks on her body?
Yes.
Did you ever ask her how she got those marks?
Yes.
What did she tell you?
The gouges down her chest, she said that she acquired them from their dog. The handprint bruise on the back of her arm, she would not tell me where it came from. And then there are many bruises on her thighs. She said that they came from rough sex.
Rough sex. Did she ever tell you that Joseph had physically abused her? Other than the phone call on New Year's Eve that you told us about.
I don't recall.
So you don't recall, or she never did?
I don't recall.
You'd remember though, wouldn't you?
I would think so.
Yeah, because you remembered the New Year's Eve call.
Because it was New Year's Eve and it was a big deal.
It was a big deal. And she's your daughter. So you would remember if she'd ever told you about any other instance. May I have a moment? I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. George,
I don't have anything else.
thanks so much.
Judge, can we take a morning break?
What?
Morning break, please.
We should-
It's 11.
You can leave. You need to leave for 2 minutes.
Our next witness is coming at 11, Judge. So
Oh, you don't have your next witness yet?
no, but
If we could take a
we
break.
really had to accept, get through a lot of witnesses today.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll take a break till 11. I'm
Okay, thank you.
sure get some exercise. Thank you, folks.
Rise.
be seated. All jurors are accounted for. We're back on the record in State versus Joseph Palazzo. The state will call its next witness. All parties are present, including Mr. Palazzo.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state calls Kaye Cataract.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly affirm that the evidence shall be admitted to the cause now and declaration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth and the case shall be heard?
I do. Good morning. Can you state your name and spell both your first and your last name?
My name is Kaye Cataract. My first name is Kayle. My last name is Cadorette.
Ms. Cataract, before we get started, I just want to ask you to please keep your voice up because the jurors are having some difficulty hearing us
Okay.
today. Thank you. Ms. Cataract, what town do you live in?
I live in Brattleboro,
How long have you lived there?
a little over a year.
Where did you live before that?
St. Albans.
Where were you living in October of 2021?
St. Albans.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a police officer.
How long have you been a police officer?
About 6 years now.
What police agency do you work for?
I work for Wilmington Police Department. Wilmington Police Department.
Have you worked for other police agencies?
Yes, I have.
What other agencies?
Worked for St. Albans before Wilmington.
And were you working as a St. Albans police in October of 2021?
Was
Where did you grow up?
St. Albans.
Do you know people by the name of Sarah and Jay Lang?
Yes, I do.
How do you know them?
They are the mother and stepfather of one of my best friends from childhood,
And who is that?
Alex Drew.
Where do the Langs live?
They live on Meadowbrook Lane in St. Albans.
Have you been to their home?
Yes.
Do you recall being at the Langs home in St. Albans on October 19th of 2021?
Yes.
Do you recall what day of the week that was?
It was a Sunday.
Why were you at the Langs home?
I was there just to spend time with Alex and his parents.
Do you remember what time you arrived?
I think I arrived around 7 p.m.
And when you arrived, who was there?
Alex was there, Sarah was there, and Jason was there.
At some point during the evening, did somebody else arrive?
Yes,
And who was that person?
Joseph Orlazzo.
Did you know Joseph Orlazzo at the time?
At the time, no.
Had you met him before?
I found out later that I had met him briefly before.
Was he alone?
Yes.
You see the person who you saw that evening in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point to that person and describe where they're sitting and an article of clothing that they're wearing?
He's in the middle seat at that table and he's wearing a blue shirt.
Your Honor, if the record can reflect that the witnesses identified the defendant.
So reflected.
Did you spend the evening at the Langs house in St. Albans?
Yes.
What did you do?
We sat around the fire and visited and drank a couple beers.
Where is the fire located at the Langs home?
Directly behind their house in their backyard.
Who was hanging out at the fire?
Myself, Alex, Sarah, Jason, and Joseph.
Did you see Mr. Ferlazzo's van parked on the property?
Yes.
Where was it parked?
It was next to the driveway, a little bit back. You could see it from where we were sitting at the fire.
How far away was it from where you were sitting by the fire?
Maybe 30 feet.
Now, you said that you had you had some beers at the fire. Who were you drinking?
Yes.
How much did you drink?
I think I had 3 beers.
Was Alex drinking?
Yes.
Do you know how much he was drinking?
I don't know.
What about Jason
Yes.
and Sarah?
Yeah.
Was Mr. Ferlazzo drinking?
Not that I recall.
Was anybody using drugs?
Yes.
Who was using drugs?
Joseph.
Do you know what drugs he was using?
It appeared to be marijuana.
And why did you think that?
He was smoking out of a bong.
How do you know what a bong is?
Life experience and law enforcement experience.
Do you recall how much he was smoking or how often he was smoking?
I recall that he was, as I'd recall somebody sitting across from me drinking, but I don't know how much.
Did Mr. Ferlazzo appear high or under the influence to you?
No.
Can you describe Mr. Ferlazzo's demeanor during the evening?
He was very relaxed, casually engaged in conversation.
How long were you hanging out with him by the fire?
I think it was about 4 hours.
During that 4-hour period of time, were you talking with him?
Yes.
What were you talking about?
We talked about our jobs. We talked about the camper that he was renovating. He said that he was going to live out of it. Just small talk.
And while you were talking, you mentioned, did he tell you what he did for a living?
Yes, he said he was a tattoo artist.
And when he told you that he was a tattoo artist, did you recognize him at that point?
Yes.
And tell us about that.
A friend of mine had gotten a tattoo from him years before.
And was that when you made the connection of that you had previously met him?
Yes.
Did you tell Mr. Ferlazzo that you were in law enforcement?
Yes.
How did he react to that?
He continued to engage me in conversation very steadily for the rest of the night.
Around what time did the evening end?
I think around midnight.
And how did it end?
Myself, Alex, Sarah, and Jason went into their house, and Joseph went off in the direction of his camper.
As you were retiring for the night, did Mr. Ferlazzo say anything to you?
Yes.
What did he say?
A comment was made where he related something to Emily. He said, "Oh, Emily likes that." And I said to my friend Alex, "Oh, I didn't know that he had a wife."
Had he not spoken about a person named Emily in the 4 hours before?
No.
Did he tell you that he was married?
No.
Did he tell you that his wife had walked off on Saturday and he hadn't heard from her?
No.
Did he tell you that he had been texting his wife's phone and she hadn't been responding?
No.
I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Any cross, Ms. Johnson?
Good
morning.
Checking to see if it's morning. So you just testified that you, well, initially thought you had never met Joseph before, correct?
Yeah.
Had you actually met him when your friend had the tattoo previously?
I was with her when she had her
But
tattoo.
you had no memory of that at the time?
No, it was years before.
Okay. So I think you testified that you were yourself and I'm sorry, I forgot his name. Well, Jason and Sarah Lane and their son, your best friend, were sitting around first around the bonfire. And at some point, Mr. Palazzo came and sat down.
Correct.
Is that correct? So it wasn't a situation where it was just you and Mr. Palazzo having, the two of you having a conversation. It was sort of a group bonfire.
Correct.
Okay. Do you recall giving a deposition on June 13th, 2023?
Yes.
Approximately, yeah. So you stated in your deposition that the conversation was very small talk type. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I think that you also mentioned that Mr. Palazzo's dog was around, and so there was some playing with the dog as
I
well.
believe so.
Okay. Then at some point he left, and you folks remained in the Lang's house, correct?
Correct.
All right. So I think that you had mentioned that and do you recall giving an interview with Detective Truex?
Yes.
And I believe also in the deposition, you stated that he seemed normal, and you had also mentioned that he hadn't mentioned his wife, but yet you were talking about small talk things.
Yes.
So having not really interacted with Mr. Palazzo previously, you wouldn't really necessarily have a baseline or no way of knowing how Mr. Palazzo behaves typically in various situations. Is that fair?
That's correct.
Okay. So his normal behavior or abnormal behavior, there's nothing to compare it to. Is that-
He was calm.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any redirect?
No redirect. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's State College Trooper Keith Cody.
You solemnly affirm that the evidence shall be available to the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and shall be perjured.
Good morning, Trooper.
Morning.
Can you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Yes, it's Keith Cody, and my last name is spelled C-O-T-E.
Okay, and how are you employed?
Trooper with Vermont State Police
And how long have you worked for the Vermont State Police?
since April of 2021,
Okay, how long have you been in law enforcement?
since November of 2012
And where did you work prior to becoming a trooper?
in the St. Albans Police Department.
And aside from general training that all sort of certified law enforcement officers receive, do you have any specialized training in law enforcement?
Sure, so I've attended a desert snow drug interdiction course taught by Nebraska State Police. I've attended a street crime seminar working on identifying and interdicting drugs coming from homes. I'm a member of the search and rescue team within the Vermont State Police. We look for lost and missing hikers throughout the state and the rural parts of the state. I'm a team leader with our critical action team. When, I guess, lawful protests turn criminal, we're called upon to help diffuse the situation. I've attended some trainings with the National Tactical Officers Association pertaining to that team.
Okay, great. Were you involved in the case related to Emily Ferlazzo?
I was.
Okay, and can you tell the jury how you initially became involved in that investigation?
Sure. So on October 18th, 2021, I received a phone call from a family member of Emily who had concerns about her welfare as she hadn't contacted them for a couple of days. She had no social media activity. She hadn't contacted any of her close friends, and this was out of the ordinary for her. This behavior was not normal.
Okay, and can you say again who had contacted you?
Yes, it was Emily's stepfather, David Bass.
Okay, and where were they located?
They were in New Hampshire at their residence.
Okay, and did they have any other information about what might have happened to her? Did they provide you any other?
Sure. So prior to David calling, Emily's husband, Joseph, had returned to New Hampshire on the date that they called, stating that they had gone their separate ways, I believe on Saturday, the 16th. Emily had told Joseph that she was going to get an Uber taxi back to New Hampshire, yet she never showed up as to when Joseph got there. And their plan was to meet in New Hampshire on Monday.
Okay, so what was your understanding of where Joseph was when Mr. Bass called the state police?
At their residence in New Hampshire.
Okay, and at some point then did you speak with Mr. Ferlazzo?
Yes, I did.
When did you speak with him?
So Mr. Bass gave me Joseph's phone number. So when I hung up with David, I called the phone number. David answered Joseph's phone, and I said, "This is Trooper Cody again. Can you put me on the phone with Joseph?" So it was moments after I finished my phone call with David.
Okay, and was that conversation with Mr. Ferlazzo recorded?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and how was that recorded?
Through my, so the phone was over my cell phone, and I recorded it on my department-issued body camera.
And did you identify the person that you were speaking with as Joseph Ferlazzo?
Yeah, so when Mr. Bass answered the phone, this is Joseph's phone. I said, "Can I please speak to Joseph?" He then handed the phone to Joseph, and I said, "Hello, Joseph. This is Trooper Cody of the State Police." And we began our conversation.
And approximately how long did you speak with him?
9 minutes and 20 seconds. Approximately.
Okay. And how did he sound while you were speaking with him?
Calm, perhaps a bit unconcerned about Emily's whereabouts.
So we're going to listen to the recording, but in summary, sort of what did Joseph tell you about Emily's whereabouts?
Sure. So Emily and Joseph had put together a makeshift camper RV that they were traveling in, that they could live in. And they traveled for the weekend to Bolton to visit a family member of his. At some point during their stay in Bolton, Emily asked to get out of the camper and in Bolton, and Joseph went to the store to get her a Coca-Cola. So he told me. When he returned, Emily was gone. He told me he drove up and down Route 2, up and down the Bolton Valley Access Road, and was unable to find her. And again, that she had told him she wanted to be on her own, and she's going to take an Uber back to New Hampshire.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, sure. And at some point, Mr. Ferlazzo told me that the camper had transmission issues and it had broken down, so we had it towed to a mechanics shop in New Haven, Vermont.
Close the deal. Nailed the workout. Freshened up.
Somewhere on Route 7, you couldn't recall the name, but it was just, he described it just being over the railroad tracks in New Haven. Following that, he got a ride to a friend's house in St. Albans, where he then took his motorcycle from St. Albans to Emily's parents' house in New Hampshire.
So I'm going to, have you previously seen what the state marked as States 3, your Axon video of
Yes, I have.
conversation?
Yep.
And have you reviewed that before today's testimony?
Yes, I did.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of the conversation you had with him on that day?
Yes.
Judge, the state would move to admit States 3.
States 3 is admitted without objection.
Okay, we can't see it.
No, it's just
I'm
the
sorry.
sound.
It's just the sound. Then that's fine.
There's just some questions about being able to see it, but before we start it, is there anything visually that is important for this video?
No.
It's just your body camera with your phone, correct?
Yeah, my body camera's, I was sitting in my cruiser. My body camera's mounted on the center of my chest here. And I had my cell phone on speakerphone, just holding it like this. So all you see is the steering wheel, and you might hear some radio conversation from my cruiser.
It's gonna play it.
Oh, this is Trooper Cody, State Police, looking for Joseph. Okay, thanks. Hey, Joseph, this is Trooper Cody from State Police. Hey, so I just got off the phone with your father-in-law, and it sounds like there's some concern about maybe where Emily may be. Yes. Okay, what can you? It sounds like you. What do we know at this point? I guess, or what can you tell me?
She was with me, and she said she was gonna get an Uber, so she asked me to drop her off in the parking lot, and I dropped her off. She was wearing like white sneakers and like ripped blue jeans and like a black top that's like long sleeves, like a lightweight. And yeah, I went to the gas station, grabbed her coat, and I went back. She already got picked up. I'm looking for her, I couldn't find her, and I haven't been able to make contact with her since that was like Saturday afternoon.
So where did you drop her off? Whereabouts? What? Like up at
There's a parking lot at like at the base of the hill.
okay. Yeah, there's so like the road that goes up to the ski resort.
Right. Yes.
So that little parking lot right at the base of that hill you're saying?
Yes.
Like almost right in the corner of the main road there, Route 2?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was Saturday in the afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. And then you went to the gas station, the one just down the street there?
Yeah, I went down the street, got some gas, and grabbed a Coke, and then she wanted maybe a soda. I went to go get her drink, and she was gone. So I don't know what picked her up. She didn't tell me, and her folks said that she's not with her friends.
Okay. So after you just noticed she was gone, you just decided to just leave, I guess?
I drove up and down the road looking to see if she started down the road, and I drove up and down to both ways, and I didn't see her walking.
Okay. So you figured that Uber or somebody was there?
Yeah, she said she was getting over.
Okay. And she had her cell phone with her at that time?
Yes.
And like her purse or wallet or something with some money?
Yeah, she had like a wallet with cards in it.
Okay. And now about what time was this? Did you drop her off, would you say?
Maybe like a little afternoon, maybe like 12:30, maybe 12:30.
Okay.
Somewhere around there.
Okay. And then, so I understand you're an Emily's fan. You guys were traveling in like a camper van?
Yes.
Okay, so you, like, they broke down somewhere, you said?
Yeah, the training's boat, so, the band's in Vermont, and I came back to New Hampshire to see if she was here when she was there.
Okay. What, where did your van break down?
Well, it didn't break down, it smoked, and then I brought it to the shop. It's supposed to get an inspection. The inspection was, well, yeah, the inspection was supposed to be done in like July, so
Okay.
he's gonna take a look at the training and inspect it.
Okay, what shop is that?
I don't know the actual name of it. It's in New Haven.
Is it New Haven?
Yeah, like right over the railroad tracks.
Oh, yeah, okay. Right in the name of the railroad over there?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you kind of ride somehow to your motorcycle?
Yes.
Okay, where did you get your motorcycle?
My motorbike was at my friend's house. In St. Albans.
In St. Albans, okay. And other than who Emily's parents have mentioned, you can't think of anybody in the Bolton area that maybe Emily, did you guys have relatives in Bolton? Or is Emily?
No, my sister and her boyfriend came up and stayed in Airbnb, and we just went and spent some time with them.
Okay.
And she started super violent and told me to, let her out, and I tried to grab her by the arm and try to pull her back in, so she wanted to do it to me, and she just, she kicked me in the groin and punched me, and I was like, okay, like, take a couple minutes, and then by the time I came back, like, she just missed me, like,
What sparked her to get so upset?
I was like, like, you just need some food, like, you need some coffee and some food, and she was just like, no, fuck that, fuck you, and she just started swinging and kicking.
Okay, it was the Airbnb here in Bolton?
That was at the top of the resort there.
Okay, all right. Okay, who's your friend up in St. Albans?
My friend Sarah Lang.
Sarah Lane, okay. Do you have a phone number for Sarah? Does Emily know Sarah? I mean, have you checked in with Sarah?
Yeah, I saw Sarah. She hasn't seen her. I saw Sarah, and I was like, okay, I don't know where the hell Emily is, so maybe I can just go to her folks' place, because we were supposed to come back here on Monday. Today's Monday. She's not here.
Okay. Would there be any reason why Emily would go back to your sisters and maybe your sister wouldn't tell you that Emily was there?
No, my sister just messaged me. She was checking on me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was okay. I told her that I'm pretty crappy, but
When Emily jumped out of the van, did she have her cell phone in there?
yeah.
You're positive on that?
Yeah, I don't have it.
I didn't know if she left it in the van or. No. Okay. All right. Well, I will. I'll ask more questions. I'll probably call you back here if I see if I can try to come up with something here. Maybe try to find out where she is, or if she's just trying to, ignore. That's fine. But I'd like to at least figure that out. So, if you think there's anybody that I should try calling, just let me know.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Bye.
On the video, you can see your phone, as you stated. Is that the phone number 802-355-8485? Is that the number you reached Mr. Ferlazzo on?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. And were you ultimately able to speak to the friend he said that he went to see in St. Albans, Sarah Lang?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you speak with her?
I spoke with her. I found a number for her moments after speaking with Joseph.
Okay. And based on that conversation, did you ask a St. Albans police officer to go to her residence?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall where her residence was?
14 Meadowbrook Drive in St. Albans.
Okay. And what did you ask that officer to do?
I asked the officer to drive by the residence and see if the camper RV, the camper van was there.
Okay. And was it?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So it was not in a garage in New Haven?
Correct.
So what did you do next after determining that it was in this residence in St. Albans?
So we few troopers went up to St. Albans and we observed the camper van there.
And do you recall approximately what time you arrived at the residence in St. Albans?
It was after midnight, but I don't recall the exact time.
And again, did you observe a van matching the description of what you'd been told by Mr. Ferlazzo?
Yes, I did.
And where was it located?
On the west side, it was parked in the grass on the west side of the residence.
Who was with the van when you arrived?
As far as
Law enforcement.
I believe, I know Senior Sergeant Joe Paquette was involved. Trooper Adam Lipa was involved. I can't recall any other.
Okay.
Top of my head.
Did you personally close up the van with evidence tape?
Yes, I did.
And what was the purpose of that? Why did you do that?
To secure the inside of it, to make sure that nobody entered any of the access points to the van.
Why'd you do that?
It was seized as evidence.
Okay. So you had concerns there might be evidence of a crime
That's
in the van?
That's correct.
Okay. And did you supervise the removal of the van from the scene?
Yes, I did.
Did you observe the tow truck actually come and remove the van?
Yes, I did.
And where did the tow truck take it?
Directly from 14 Meadowbrook to the St. Albans State Police Barracks.
Okay. And approximately how far is 14 Meadowbrook from the St. Albans Police Barracks?
2 miles.
Did you ever lose sight of the van at any point during that trip?
No, I did not.
Did you also observe the red Jeep or a red Jeep coming to the barracks secured area?
Excuse me. Yes, I observed the red Jeep once it arrived at the barracks.
Okay. Did you secure it?
Yes. So the van was too big to put into our indoor sally port. So we put the Jeep inside of the secure sally port in the barracks, and then I placed evidence tape on all the access points to the Jeep as well.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Judge.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay, thank you, Trooper.
So Judge, I think our remaining witnesses are coming at 1.
Okay. It looks like we're going a little quicker than we had anticipated, so that's the good news. And so we'll take our lunch break now till 1 o'clock. We'll try and start promptly at 1. Thank you. Everybody learning.
Dear Dr. Ng, my missing teeth isolated me from the world. I trusted Clear Choice, and you gave
Anything about the case while on lunch break? Anybody discuss the case with anyone or hear any information of any kind regarding this matter? I'm seeing all shakes of the head no from the jurors. Is the state ready to proceed?
We are, Judge. The state would call Spencer Lemons.
You solemnly affirm that the evidence you shall give related to the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under pain of penalty of perjury.
I do.
Good afternoon. Could you please state your name?
My name is Spencer Lemons.
Mr. Lemons, the acoustics in this room are not very good, so I'm going to ask you to just keep your
Spencer
voice-
Lemons.
Thank you. Where do you live, Mr. Lemons?
I live in Sheldon, Vermont, 56 Bailey Drive.
And how long have you lived there?
I've lived there 10 years.
Were you living there in October 2021?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know a person named Joseph Ferlazzo?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
He was a friend of mine.
How long have you known him?
I knew him probably since 2017-ish, 16-ish.
Do you see Joseph in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you point to him, describe an article of clothing he's wearing and where he's sitting for the jury?
Sitting over there wearing a blue shirt.
Your Honor, if the record could reflect that Mr. Lemons has identified Mr. Ferlazzo.
So reflected.
Mr. Lemons, I'm going to ask you some questions about the weekend of October 16th and 17th and 18th of 2021. Do you remember that weekend?
I do.
What were you doing that weekend?
I was hiking Mount Katahdin and then I came home to spend the weekend with my wife for our anniversary,
When was your anniversary?
17th of October.
Did you communicate with Joseph that weekend?
I did.
When did you first hear from him?
I heard from him when he communicated that he was going to be coming up to my house
And how did he communicate with you?
via Facebook Messenger.
Do you remember when he told you he was coming to your house?
Late at night after 9 p.m.
Did he tell you anything about when you could expect his arrival?
Yeah, he said it would be around 11:20 at night.
Did Mr. Ferlazzo arrive at your home?
Yes, ma'am.
And what time did he arrive?
About 11:20.
What vehicle
They
was he
can't hear.
driving?
Okay. Both sides or mainly the witness?
Sorry.
Okay, try, let's project.
Yes, sir.
What vehicle was he driving?
He was driving a red Jeep.
Did he come inside?
No.
What did he say to you?
He said, let's go pick up my van.
Did you know where his van was?
He said it was at someone's house called the Langs.
Did you know where that residence was?
No, ma'am.
Had you ever been there before?
No, ma'am.
Did he tell you why he wanted to get the van?
He said he wanted to get the van up to my house because that was the original plan, and he wanted to get it done now.
Did you take him to get the van?
I did.
What car did you drive?
I took my Honda Civic.
Where was Mr. Ferlazzo's Jeep?
It was parked at the end of my driveway on Bailey Drive.
Did Mr. Ferlazzo go with you?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was Mr. Ferlazzo's demeanor like while you were driving in the car?
He was quiet.
Did you ask him why he was quiet?
I did ask him if there was anything going on, and he seemed a little distraught. He said, I just want to get to the bus. And so I had him point the directions out to me as we went.
Okay, keep your voice up.
He pointed the directions out to me as we went.
Okay. And generally speaking, where were you traveling to?
We were traveling to St. Albans,
And about how long would it take to get from your home to St. Albans?
about 30 minutes.
Did you arrive in St. Albans?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened when you arrived in St. Albans?
We went in St. Albans. He gave me directions to where to go, and we arrived at where his bus was parked, and I assume that's the Langs.
What did you see when you arrived where the bus was parked?
I saw several patrol SUVs parked outside the residence.
And when you say patrol SUVs, do you mean police cars?
Police vehicles,
Do you remember how many you saw?
3 or 4.
What did you think when you saw those police vehicles?
Alarm bells went off in my head, and then he said, just go to the end of the road. It was a dead end road. And he said, turn around. And then I turned around, and he instructed me to drive past the police.
When he told you to turn around, what did that make you think?
That made me think something was not correct in the situation, and thus it prompted me to continue to prod him for what's going on.
Okay, and did you do that?
I did. I asked him, what's going on, man? You need to tell me what's going on. If I'm going to be driving past police officers, I need to know what is going on.
And did he respond to you?
He did.
How did he respond?
He responded to me with, there's a lot going on. I wish I could see my grandmother. And then I said, what is going on? He said, Emily is back in the van. I said, is Emily alive? He said, no. And I asked, did you hurt her? And he said, yes. And then he started getting fidgety in the car.
Okay. Can you describe what Mr. Ferlazzo was like when you say he started to get fidgety?
He started going like this, moving around, reaching for the car door handle. I didn't know if he had anything on his person that would maybe cause harm to myself. So I immediately stopped the vehicle and told him to get out.
And did he say anything to you as he was getting out of the car?
Not that I remember.
What did you do when Joseph got out of the car?
I immediately turned around towards my house to put distance between myself and him so I could make a 911 call for the information he just gave me.
And did you make a 911 call?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Do you remember what time you made that call?
It was probably close to midnight.
Prior to your testimony today, have you heard that 911 call?
Yes, ma'am.
So Judge, at this time, the state would move for the court to read to the jury stipulation number 1, which I have for you.
All right, stipulation number 1 reads, Members of the jury, the state and defendant Joseph Palazzo have agreed that you may find certain facts. This is called a stipulation. On October 19th, 2021, at 12:03.08 a.m., Spencer Lemons called 911. That call was initially answered by the E911 dispatch board. The E911 dispatch board
All right, we got a verdict.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the jury, the bailiff has passed me a note that says, what if we can't agree on a verdict? Question mark anyway. At this time, I'm going to ask that this note be made a part of the file. And somebody please take care of getting that done anyway. I'm going to read you the court's instructions in this regard. I know that it's possible for honest men and women to have honest difference of opinion about the facts of the case. But if it is possible to reconcile your differences of opinion and decide this case, then you should do so. Accordingly, I remind you that the court originally instructed you that the verdict of the jury must represent the considered judgment of each juror. It is your duty as juror to consult with one another and to deliberate in view of reaching an agreement. If you can do so without violence to your individual judgment, each of you must decide the case for yourself, but only after an impartial consideration of the evidence with your fellow jurors. In the course of your deliberation, do not hesitate to re-examine your own views and change your opinion if you're convinced that it is erroneous. We do not surrender your honest convictions as to weight or effect of the evidence solely because of the opinion of your fellow jurors or for the mere purposes of returning the verdict. So please continue your deliberation. I would ask that this be made a copy and that this written instruction be sent back to the jury room, okay? I want to ask y'all to continue. I know you're giving it your best, but I ask you to continue your instruction. If you'll get a copy of it and let me have my original back and send that copy into the jury room. All right. I'm gonna get this instruction in writing back to the jury. Bring me my copy back, and the court will be in recess until we have further word from the jury.
Well. I'm not happy with that. So it seems like they might get hung up on the fact. It seems like they can't come to a decision on any of the freaking charges. That's why I want us to be able to go see the oh shoot, I done left that mug running. That's why I want us to be able to go and see let me see y'all if I could go find them jury instructions. We might be able, because I saw somebody say, can we watch it on your channel? Let's see if I can pull it back up from my earlier video and we can go back and listen to those jury instructions. Because baby, what? Oops, I'm just talking. Because baby, I don't understand. I really don't. I really want it all pulled back. Okay, there we go. I don't understand. Like, we're gonna have to go to
direct and circumstantial evidence. It requires that before you return a verdict of guilty, the state of Mississippi must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty from all the evidence in the case. The law presumes every person charged with the commission of a crime to be innocent. This presumption places upon the state of Mississippi the burden of proving the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. The presumption of innocence attends.
The best things never change. They just get better. Like Hardy's original bag, just $6.99.
Evidence that satisfied the jury of his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The defendant is not required to prove his innocence or to offer any evidence at all. The verdict of the jury must represent the considered judgment of each juror. In order to return a verdict, it will be necessary that each juror agree thereto. In other words, all 12 of you must agree on a verdict in this case. It is your duty as jurors to consult with one another and to deliberate in view of reaching an agreement, if you can do so without violence to your individual judgment. If each of you must decide the case for yourself, but do so only after an impartial consideration of the evidence of your fellow jurors. In the course of your deliberations, do not hesitate to re-examine your views and change your opinion if convinced that your previous opinion was erroneous, but do not surrender your honest convictions as to the weight of evidence or affect the evidence solely because of the opinion of your fellow jurors or for the mere purpose of reaching a verdict. Upon retiring to the jury room, you will select one from among your number to act as a foreperson. The foreperson will preside over your deliberations and will be your spokesperson before the court. If it becomes necessary during your deliberations to communicate with the court, you may send a note by the bailiff. During deliberations, no member of the jury should ever attempt to communicate with the court by any means other than a writing, and the court will never communicate with any member of the jury on any subject touching the merits of the case, otherwise in writing or orally here in open court. Bear in mind also that you are never to reveal to any person, not even me, how the jury stands, numerically or otherwise, until you have reached a verdict, unless asked by me in open court. The defendant has a constitutional right not to testify on his own behalf in this case. You are not to make any conclusions or inferences of guilt about the defendant as a result of the defendant exercising his right not to testify on his own behalf. You will not consider in any way during your deliberations the defendant's decision not to testify. Each person testifying under oath is a witness. You have the duty to determine the believability of the witness. In performing this duty, you must consider each witness's intelligence, the witness's ability to observe and accurately remember, the witness's sincerity, and the witness's demeanor while testifying. You must consider also the extent to which the witness is either supported or contradicted by other evidence, the relationship the witness may have with either side, and how the witness might be affected by the verdict. You must consider any evidence of the witness character. You must consider any evidence of the witness's character for truthfulness. In weighing a discrepancy by a witness or between witnesses, you should consider whether it resulted from an innocent state or a deliberate falsehood, and whether it pertains to a matter of importance or an unimportant detail. May reject or accept all or any part of a witness's testimony, and you may reject part and accept other parts of a witness's testimony. After making your own judgment, you will give the testimony of each witness the credibility, if any, as you may think it deserves. The weight of the evidence is not necessarily determined by the number of witnesses testifying as to the existence or non-existence of any fact. You may find that the testimony of a smaller number of witnesses as to any fact is more credible than the testimony of a larger number of witnesses to the contrary. Any fact in this case may be proved by either direct or circumstantial or evidence or both. Direct evidence is direct proof of the fact, such as testimony by a witness about what the witness personally saw, heard, or did. Direct evidence is a testimony of someone who claims to have actual knowledge of a fact. Direct evidence is simply evidence which, if you believe, it directly proves a fact. An example is a witness testified that he saw it raining outside and you believed him. That would be direct evidence that it is raining. Fact or facts from which you could conclude by your reason and common sense that another fact exists, even though it has not been proven directly. Circumstantial evidence is proof of one or more facts from which you could find.
Oh crap! This is where we had the issue. Shoot. Because and they messed up the feed to where like we can't even go back on the real one to fix it. This is where we had the issue. Crap.
Acting with a depraved heart is when a person acts in a highly dangerous way, which shows that the person does not care for the safety of human life. Even if someone does not intend to kill any particular person, he can still be guilty of murder if he acts with a depraved heart and a person is killed as a result. Culpable negligence is negligence of a degree so gross as to be tantamount to a wanton disregard of or utter indifference to the safety of human life. Negligence is doing something that a reasonable, careful person would not do under similar circumstances, or failing to do something that a reasonable, careful person would do under similar circumstances. Second-degree murder and culpable negligence manslaughter are distinguishable simply by the degree of mental state of culpability. In short, second-degree murder involves a higher risk of recklessness from which malice may be implied. The defendant, Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr., is charged with the offense of capital murder. If you find from the evidence in this case beyond a reasonable doubt that Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr., on or about July 8, 2022, in Lafayette County, Mississippi, did unlawfully and feloniously without authority of law and with or without any design to effect death, killed Jimmy Dale J. Lee III, a human being, while Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. was engaged in the commission of the crime of kidnapping by with or without intent to secretly combine, invaguely Jimmy Dale J. Lee III with the intent to cause Jimmy Dale J. Lee III to be confined against his will, then you should find that Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of capital murder. If you fail to find the defendant, Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of capital murder, then you shall continue your deliberation to consider the crime of first-degree murder. If you find from the evidence in this case beyond a reasonable doubt that Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr., on or about July 8, 2022, in Lafayette County, Mississippi, did willfully, unlawfully, and with deliberate design to effect the death of Jimmy Dale J. Lee III, killed Jimmy Dale J. Lee III, a human being, then you shall find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of first-degree murder. If you fail to find the defendant Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of first-degree murder, then you shall continue your deliberation to consider the crime of second-degree murder. If you find from the evidence in this case beyond a reasonable doubt that Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr., on or about July 8, 2022, in Lafayette County, Mississippi, did willfully, unlawfully, and feloniously kill Jimmy Dale J. Lee III, a human being, without premeditated design to effect the death of Jimmy Dale J. Lee III, while engaged in the commission of an act eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved heart, regardless of human life, then you shall find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of second-degree murder. If you fail to find the defendant Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of second-degree murder, then you shall continue your deliberations to consider the crime of manslaughter, culpable negligence. If you find from the evidence in this case beyond a reasonable doubt that Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr., on or about July the 8th, 2022, in Lafayette County, Mississippi, unlawfully and feloniously killed Jimmy Dale J. Lee III, a human being, with culpable negligence by engaged in dangerous sexual activity with Jimmy Dale J. Lee III, then you shall find Sheldon Timothy Harrington guilty of manslaughter, culpable negligence. If the state has failed to prove any of the above listed elements beyond a reasonable doubt, then you shall find the defendant not guilty of capital murder, first-degree murder, second-degree murder, and manslaughter, culpable negligence. The court instructs you that all 12 of you must reach and agree upon a verdict. If the court instructs the jury that if all 12 of you reach and agree upon a verdict, you shall return the verdict to the court in one of the following forms. If you find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of capital murder, the form of your verdict shall be as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. Sheldon Timothy Harrington guilty of capital murder. If you do not find the defendant guilty of capital murder, then you shall continue your deliberations, consider the lesser charge of first-degree murder. If you find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of first-degree murder, the form of your verdict shall be as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of first-degree murder. If you do not find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of first-degree murder, then you shall continue in your deliberation and consider the lesser charge of second-degree murder. If you find Sheldon Timothy Harrington jury find the defendant Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of second-degree murder. If you do not find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of second-degree murder, then you shall continue in your deliberations and consider the lesser charge of manslaughter, culpable negligence. If you find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of manslaughter, culpable negligence, the form of your verdict shall be. We, the jury, find the defendant Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of manslaughter, culpable negligence. If you do not find Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. guilty of manslaughter, culpable negligence, then the form of your verdict shall be as follows. We, the jury, find the defendant Sheldon Timothy Harrington Jr. not guilty. Your verdict must be in one of the forms written above. You should write your verdict on a separate sheet of paper. It does not need to be signed. Did the court read the instructions that were
I still think they could. I think they should be able to get him on manslaughter. Like I'm with Lacey in the chat that them people probably know somebody on that jury. Somebody on the jury probably know them because I don't think no reasonable person would not convict him of at least manslaughter because baby, he disappeared. He stopped using his credit cards. He stopped using, he disappeared. He went to your house and he disappeared, never to be seen again. Like, I can't, child, this trial giving me her heart palpitations because there's no way. Yeah, Hershey, they do say that they from a different county, but child, Mississippi ain't but so big. It ain't but so big. They don't have a verdict. They came back with a jury question asking what happens if we can't reach a verdict. So basically, it sounds like they in their hung. But my thing is, a blind man could see. A blind man could see. You did something to that boy, whether you intentionally did it or unintentionally did it. You did something and he never went back home. His family never seen him again. For real. I'm trying to find the trial we was just watching, y'all. I accidentally clicked off of it. Cause I'm just not convinced. Baby, and on day 4, they got him on the stand. So we gotta hurry up and catch up. We got to hurry up and catch up. I'm trying to find what we were watching.
put up a fight when you asked to get out? No, he was like, he's like, man, I don't want to go to prison, don't take me back there. I said, and then, we gotta go back to my house. I'm like, are those cops for you? What is going on? And I said, what is going on? He says, my wife, was in, he said, I did something really bad. I said, what did you do? And he said that his wife is inside that bus. And I said, is she alive? And he goes, no, I don't want to go to prison. If you get on my call right now, I'm calling the cops. Okay. All right. And so when he told you that, were you in Fairfield or were you in St. Albans? Do you know? I'm in Fairfield right now. That's where he was. I just kicked him out of my car on 36 because I don't know if he's got a weapon or anything. Okay, so you don't know if he has a weapon? Okay. And what is his name? I do not know. His name is Joseph Ferlazzo, Ferlazzo. I'm sorry, can you say that again? Ferlazzo. His first name is Joseph, Joseph. He was staying with someone called the Langs, Langs, and that's where his bus was parked at. And that's where I thought I was taking him to get his bus. I did not know. Oh my God. Feels like a bad movie. Okay, hold on a second. You said near Woodland Road? Yeah, I'm on near Woodland Road, which is a private road, right off of 36. Can you spell that for me? Woodland Road. Okay, and is that one word or two words, do you know? I'm just trying to map it. One word, and his Jeep is parked at my house. Okay, and where is your house? My house is 56 Bailey Drive, Enosburg Falls, Vermont. That's where I'll head. There is zero cell service there, though. Okay, but all this is taking place in about Fairfield? 2 minutes of right now. Yeah, Fairfield is right here, and then the directions to get to his Lang's place. Do you know where those two gas stations are off the exit? What is it, 19 off the interstate? Yeah. There's like if you continue down that road as if you're going to go to Stone's Auto, and you bang a left on the main street, it's like the first left after that, there's like another little gas station down past that road. Okay. All right, but he told you that he had killed his wife when you guys were on Route 36, when you were taking him back with him. Yeah. Okay. All right, hold on a second. And then I just stopped the car. Like, yeah, no, oh my God. Okay. All right, and did he put up a fight when you asked him to get out? No, he was like, he's like, man, I don't want to go to prison. Don't take me back there. I said, and then he just started getting fidgety, and I don't know if he's got anything on him. I mean, yes, I am armed, but I'm not looking at any confrontation, so I just get out of my car. Okay. All right, hold on a second. Because I got a family and wife and kids. I don't need this crap around me. Okay, no, I completely understand. Do you know what his wife's name is? Her name was Emily Ferlazzo. I'm guessing was. I don't know. Emily, E-M-L-Y. Okay. I don't know what her maiden name was. I'm sorry. No, that's okay. Okay, hold on 1 second. We're gonna transfer over, okay? 44. Yep. Salvage agent 419, that's your letters on the line. Call back 615-305-7127. Tonight, he had picked up his friend Joseph Ferlazzo, and he was bringing him back to the sedan bus that he lives in. On Route 36, Joseph has stated to inspectors that he had killed his wife tonight and that she was in this sedan. Joseph was not armed, and he asked him to get out. Now he's walking on Route 36. Joseph is on Route 36 in Fairfield? Yeah, he's just walking. He's walking on 36. It's just before Woodland Ave over Fairfield Hill, like maybe a minute out of town. Okay. On Fairfield Hill. Okay, and do you know what he's wearing something? He's wearing a black long sleeve and pants or shorts. I honestly don't know. I wasn't looking. He stopped by the house. Just for a while, we planned on him moving his bus there with his wife, and
Chairman, I don't have any more questions for Mr. Lemons. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jantz.
Do you need a break? Okay. Because I saw you becoming emotional listening to that can you hear me? 911 call. Joseph was your friend, wasn't he?
Yes.
And
Yes.
thank you. And you were surprised when he told you that he had killed Emily, weren't you?
Yes.
In fact, he asked you if you would kill him, didn't he?
Yes.
You told the 911 dispatcher that you were armed, right?
Yes.
And you had a gun in the car that you were driving in, correct?
Yes.
And Joseph typically carried a weapon as well, didn't he?
Yes.
But you didn't know that night if he were armed or not, correct?
Correct.
You didn't think he'd ever be able to do something like that, did you?
I don't know.
Well, based on your friendship with him from, I think you said 2017, so 3 years you knew him prior to this event, right? Yeah.
About that.
Okay. And had you ever seen him demonstrate any kind of violence that would lead you to think this is the kind of thing he could do?
I had not witnessed that myself.
Would you say he was very distraught when you told him to get out of the car?
It seemed that way.
Are you having trouble with the,
All right.
It seemed that way. Sorry.
that's
No
okay.
problem.
In fact, you told the police in an interview that the guy doesn't like violence. Isn't that right?
I don't remember.
Okay. You remember a conversation with Sergeant LeBombard? You had more than one, I know you did. Do you remember that one in particular?
That was 3 years ago. It's hard to remember.
Okay. But you've already told us that you hadn't observed violence, Joseph exhibiting violence over the 3 years you'd known him, right?
I had not witnessed it.
Okay. May I have a moment, please?
Yes.
That's okay. Thank you. I have nothing else.
No redirect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lemons. You're all set.
Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, the state calls Trooper Adam Lipa.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. Solemnly affirm that the evidence you shall give related to the cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth on this being penalty of murder. I do.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm reminding everybody to keep their voices up.
All right.
It's just difficult to hear in here. So if we remind you, please project. Could you please state your name?
Adam Lipa,
Could you spell your last name for us, please?
Lippa,
How are you employed?
through the Vermont State Police
When did you begin working for the Vermont State Police?
in July 2018.
Have you worked for other police agencies?
Prior to that, I worked for the Burlington Police Department from January 2015 until I started with the state.
What station have you been assigned to since you became a trooper?
The St. Albans Barracks.
Were you working for the Vermont State Police on October 19th of 2021?
I was.
Was that in St. Albans?
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, were you asked to respond to Meadowbrook Lane in the city of St. Albans?
Yes, it was actually the late evening of the 18th, but
Okay,
same time frame.
thank you. Who asked you to respond to that location?
Sergeant Paquette.
What information were you given, if anything, about why you were going to that location?
I was asked to see if there was a white minibus there and advised it may have been used in a crime, but there was not yet probable cause to seize it.
And around what time were you asked to do that?
I was asked at about 10:45 p.m. on the evening of the 18th.
Did you go to that location?
I did.
Do you remember what time you arrived?
It was about 11 o'clock that night.
Was the minibus there?
It was.
Did you see anyone in it?
I did not.
Did you see anyone outside of it?
I did not.
How long were you there?
Before other people showed up?
Yes.
It was about another 45 minutes, I believe.
And during that time, did anybody leave the van?
No,
Did anyone enter the van?
no,
Did anyone move the van?
no.
So you said about 40 minutes after you arrived, some other folks arrived. That,
I did say that. I think it was actually like an hour and 40 minutes.
okay. And who arrived?
At one point early on, Trooper Berkovic kind of came as I was sitting there. And then about an hour and 40 minutes later, Sergeant Paquette and Captain Hill, I think along with a few other troopers, arrived.
And what was discussed when everybody arrived, when everybody was congregated?
There was a discussion of doing a protective sweep of the inside of the van.
And did that happen?
It did.
What information, if any, had been conveyed to you about why you might be going in the van?
Dispatch advised that there was a phone call they received indicating that the defendant's wife was deceased inside the van.
When you said that you were doing a protective sweep, what were you looking for?
We were looking for a person that was in distress in need of medical care.
Who entered the van?
Sergeant Paquette, myself, and Trooper Berkovic.
Who went first?
Sergeant Paquette.
And who went second?
I did.
And third?
Trooper Berkovic.
Can you describe for the jury what the interior of the van looks like?
Yeah, I can kind of best describe it as a converted mini school bus. So it had the doors that open similar to how you get on a school bus. When you're standing on the stairway going up into it, the driver's compartment would be on your right. And then towards the left, it was converted. Instead of having seats in there like a normal school bus, there was kind of still the center aisle with a small kitchen on one side, bathroom, shower on the other side. And as you made your way kind of towards the back of it.
At AAA, the most important thing is family. Join our family and discover auto coverage that's as individual.
There was a bed with storage above it and below it.
Did you see a human body in the van?
I did not.
Where was Sergeant Paquette looking?
So he initially entered the van and kind of went towards the back, went in, made a left, and went towards the back near where the bed was set up.
And where were you looking?
I was kind of in the middle portion of the van.
And what about Trooper Berkovic?
He was behind me, kind of just dealing with the entryway. And
How would you describe the condition of the van?
it was certainly lived in, a little cluttered, but nothing jumped out as being broken or, in disrepair. You could tell the bed was unmade. There were some containers out on the cabinet. It didn't show signs that there was a fight or anything that screamed out at me.
Was there a mattress on the bed?
There was.
And was there bedding on the bed?
There was. It was not like a made up bed, but there were pillows and bedding and sheets. It looked like a bed that someone had slept in. And
Can you describe where in the van the bathroom is located?
so as you enter the van, you make a left, and if you're facing the back of it, it would then be on your left-hand side.
And is there any sort of a doorway or anything that blocks the bathroom from the rest of the van?
I believe there was a shower curtain.
Did you look in the bathroom?
I did.
And can you please describe to the jury what you saw in the bathroom area?
There's a small toilet, a small shower, and on the floor of the shower, there were a number of black trash bags kind of stacked up.
Could you see inside the trash bags?
I could not.
Were they tied or were they open?
They were tied shut.
Do you recall how many there were?
There were enough that they were mounded up, but I did not get a count.
And did you do anything with the trash bags?
I picked the top trash bag up just to verify that there was no way Emily was somehow tucked under there. And then I placed it back down.
Can you describe what that top bag felt like to you when you lifted it up?
It felt light and it was kind of puffy looking. So it looked like there were maybe pillows or some type of lighter bedding.
And did you lift any other trash bags?
I did not.
Did you move any other trash bags?
I did not.
How long were you in the van?
I would say between 5 and 10 minutes.
And what did you do when you left the van?
I stood by with the van and ultimately at Captain Hill's direction arranged for it to be towed back to the barracks. I then stayed with it until it was towed back.
In October of 2021, did Vermont State Police give troopers body-worn cameras?
Yes.
And did you have one in October of 2021?
Yes,
Was it running?
it was.
Have you reviewed your body camera footage, which the state pre-marked as State's Exhibit 5 prior to testifying today?
I have.
And is that a fair and accurate representation of the van as you saw it on October 19th of 2021?
It is.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit State's Exhibit 5 and
See it.
No objections.
No, State Exhibit 5 is admitted
yes, and
without objection.
I'm going to write that.
Well, we can't see it now. Now we can see it. Can they all see it?
Is there any sort of a glare? Good.
Stacy, you have to see it.
Open over here.
Okay, please, hello? looked like there was hollow space under the bed. So I don't know if these are all individual drawers. Dog bed. Nothing in that bag. But not heavy enough to have body parts in it. Yeah. So there's that back door. Cause there's like, it looked like from the bottom window, there was a bit of space under the bed. Which makes sense, cause everything behind the drawers from like here back. Well, I don't know if it's just that upper little latch. Yeah, but I'm wondering about opening the back door to look underneath. Yeah. You're seeing everything in there, and there's nothing of Duck Creek. Our boy has some.
Trooper Lipa, I'm showing you what I have marked as stage 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Could you take a look at those and tell me if you recognize
Zero accounting software helped put me on the right path. It's easy to find your numbers all in one place and get a clearer financial picture. So find the power in your.
They appear to all be screenshots from the video that was just played.
And are those screenshots a fair and accurate representation of your body camera?
They are.
Your Honor, the state would move to admit states 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
Any objection, Ms. Johnson?
No objection.
States 6 through 11 are admitted without objection.
Your Honor, I have no other questions for Trooper Lipa.
Okay, thank you, Trooper.
Thank you.
So Judge, before, if we could just publish those exhibits for the
Yeah.
jury.
You want to publish them by hand or on the?
They're right here, yeah.
Okay.
I think so because I have to pay that. Oh, yeah, maybe. Your Honor, the state next calls Detective Sergeant James Forrest.
Judge, may we approach?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly affirm that the evidence you shall give relative to cause now under consideration shall be the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and obtain the penalty of perjury.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are learning that the acoustics in this room are not great. So try to keep your voice up so that the folks in the back of the jury can hear you.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you state your name and spell your last name, please?
James Voris, V as in Victor, Ooris.
And how are you employed?
I am employed by the Vermont State Police
How long have you been employed by the Vermont State Police?
since January 2014.
And were you employed by them on October of 2021?
Yes,
And were you a detective sergeant at the time?
yes,
And are you still?
yes.
At some point, were you assigned as the case officer for an investigation related to Emily Ferlazzo?
Yes, I was.
And what does it mean to be a case officer?
So to be a case officer, so I'm assigned to the major crime unit. So as a case officer, I'm responsible for the organization of a case. As a detective sergeant, I'm responsible to conduct interviews, collect evidence, review evidence, author search warrants, just the general investigative actions.
Okay. And is it fair to say that you sort of collect all of that for the case?
Yes, so there'll be several or numerous individuals that work on a case, and I collect their reports and their work product. I compile it into a case file and provide it.
Okay. And have you reviewed all of the evidence in this case?
I believe so.
Okay. And did you prepare evidence for the court for this trial?
Yes, I did.
And what does that entail?
So specifically with the physical evidence for this trial, I just recently packaged it in clear evidence bags so it was visible without having to having it removed from the paper evidence bags it was in.
Okay. And do you recall some of the stuff you did that for?
I do.
The jury hasn't.
Repackaged projectiles, a casing, ammunition, some pillows. I believe that might be it.
Okay. All right. So when you were assigned this case, what information did you have initially?
So initially, I learned that other troopers were investigating a missing persons case, and I responded to the St. Albans State Police Barracks to assist with that.
Okay. Why, where were you stationed at